So, if we're talking about the beginning of summer, what says summer better than July 4th? What says July 4th better than Boston Pops? What says Boston Pops better than the Maestro himself, Keith Lockhart? We were lucky enough to get him for a few minutes in between all sorts of preparations and activities, and he sat down with us, and you're lucky enough to share that with us. So it's the beginning of summer, and nothing says more summer to me than, or nothing says summer more to me, you got me, than the Boston Pops. This is your time of year. I also think it's wonderful that we're in front of Mr. Higginson, the founder.
Our founder. He looks a little stern in that statue. I think he was actually a friendlier sort than that, but a real visionary, a real public citizen, somebody who did great things for this town, and not the least of which, of course, was founding the Boston Symphony and our parent organization, and then bringing the Boston Pops into the world 5 years later in 1885.
And you've lightened things up quite a bit in your 17 years here. I mean, it's definitely not austere and serious. It's a lot more fun.
I don't know if the Pops has ever been austere and serious. It certainly reflects to some extent the personality of the person who's on the podium, and I like to have a good time for this. But that having been said, I think that Pops has always been reflective of the age that it was in. And we live in a more casual age than we did 50 years ago, and the Pops reflects that.
What are you thinking about when you're on the stage?
Usually what I have to do next, or in rare instances when I don't have anything that distracts me, I'm thinking about making the best music I can possibly make.
Really? I mean, come on, you're not thinking about, the shopping list or picking up milk on your way home.
If you are, then you know that sometimes that happens, and then you know that you're not having a good performance.
Really?
Yes.
Really? So you can stay totally
focused. I mean, it's just like an athletic event. If you ask Dustin Pedroia what he's thinking about while he's playing second base, if he's thinking about the shopping list, he's not doing his job.
Yeah, that's a good analogy too. And another thing I've always wondered, you've got a lot of egos on that stage. How do you manage all those? I mean, they're all divas.
Well, they can be, or at least a good number.
Yeah, good number.
But it is a lot of artistic personalities with a lot of strong opinions, and it's just I hate to overuse the sports analogy, but I always tell people who come from outside of this business is that imagine a team, Patriots, with no coach, and you have a lot of talented people without any simple focus, without any common intention running around on the field. My job is to take all of those egos and all those talents and make them into something that's collectively more than the sum of the parts.
And actually, they're all boomers. Probably most of them, aren't they?
The vast majority is very funny, actually. The orchestra on the 4th of July itself is the Boston Pops Esplanade Orchestra, which is our touring orchestra, which was founded in 1985 or so by the people who at that point were all the hottest young freelancers in Boston. So when I came to the orchestra, probably did my first tour with them, cross-country tour in 1995. I was 35, and
not yet a boomer.
I was
still a boomer.
I was still a boomer. We were younger boomers then. It had nothing to do with the age.
Or
It has
we
to do
all.
with when you were born.
That's true.
And everybody in the orchestra, pretty much 85% of the orchestra, was between my age and a decade older than me. And the funny thing is, since it's a great job and everybody loves being here, 17 years later, everybody is now between my age of 51 and 61, 62, and literally there's a huge chunk. Now people leave, people move on, people retire, the people who are on the older end of that spectrum, and now we have people who are young enough to be my kids in it, which is a little freaky, but
It is a little freaky.
But it is basically a baby boomer orchestra, and it's fun, especially when you're on the road with them a lot, because we get the same jokes and drink in the same bars.
Grew up in the same era, really.
Yes.
So the other thing I was told is that you might be able to give me some tips on how to actually, although people who know me well will tell me I don't need any tips on that.
And what would they mean by that?
Yeah, really.
Okay.
But I also hear you don't use a line.
I don't, actually.
Well, then let's do it without a line.
Okay, well that's easy. This is very funny because this is a very.
I tell you. What does that mean?
I'm not drawing any inferences, and this is way too heavy to actually be a baton. This is a lovely presentation with it needs a little silver polish, I think, but this would kill you if you had to hold this for 6 hours a day.
Wow.
The weight would really get to you.
That's how much you have to practice, is 6 hours a
It
day?
depends on the day, but a lot of times we're in double rehearsals, 2.5 hour rehearsals, sometimes 2 of those with a performance on the evening, so there's a lot of that going on. But basically, It's
You make it look easy.
This is
Maestro. You make it look easy.
This is the baton. A baton is the French word for stick, so it's nothing all that fancy. And originally, it was put into people's hands. Originally, violinists were conducting; they just used the bow. And then eventually, when the conducting job was pulled off separate, beginning of the 19th century, they started using the baton instead. And it was basically to give people something clearer to watch. But some conductors work without a baton, and this is a good baby boomer story. My shoulders, after doing this for 30 years, are pretty much dead. They're deceased. The same kind of things that happens to
From holding your hands up like this?
yeah, rotator cuff injuries and that sort of thing. A lot of tears. So basically, I found that it hurt less to stop using baton, and that I wasn't any less clear than I was. So we went with that. Now, basically, when
And what are the orchestra is watching what, your hands? The
they're
stick?
watching,
What are they
actually,
watching?
your entire body. The idea of the stick was to give you one point of reference in your right hand, but basically your hand just becomes the baton in this situation. One of your hands does the traffic cop sort of things. Music, as you might know, is divided into measures, into bars that are evenly spaced groups of time. If it's a march, for instance, there are groups of 2 beats each, because you have 2 feet. So down, bum, and there are international symbols for a piece that is in 2, a piece that is in 3, like a waltz. And they're repeating patterns so that the orchestra, even looking peripherally, you may look at the violinist and go, but they're not watching them at all. But then the funny thing is that if I stopped conducting, they would fall apart. The reason is that they're looking at me the way I'm looking at that thing behind you over there. They're looking peripherally at that. So it has to be something very clear. So they constantly go, oh, that's where the downbeat is, that's where the tempo is, without actually having to stop and stare right at it. Basically, this hand would come down first, that's the downbeat, right? That's why it's called the downbeat. Then, let's say we're doing a pattern of 4 beats. Then it would go inside to the body, left, then right to the outside of the body, then up. So you're basically making a big one, to like a cross. 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
And what's the left?
Floor? Oh well, I'll get to that. You have to get this. You have to get this down first. And the thing is, as you'll notice, I can keep this beat very evenly while continuing conversation with you. I could, write checks, pay my utilities, do things like that. Because this you stop thinking about, because this has to be totally autonomic, and I can switch meters and do anything like that and keep this going. Now that's because people say, what's the biggest talent you need for conducting? The biggest talent you need for conducting is this.
Yeah, I can't do that either.
It's split brain stuff. It's ability, because there are so many things you want to communicate, and you use everything. You use your body language, you use your face, and you use both hands. And so this hand does lots of things. I mean, it does the silly things like I say, well, scratches, turns pages, that sort of thing. But also, this hand is used, for instance, let's say there's somebody who hasn't been in the piece for the last 2.5 minutes, and they've lost concentration. They say, I'm not sure if I'm supposed to come in now or the next bar. Then you look at them a couple bars beforehand and say, I know you've got a big solo coming up. I'm with you, man. Put your hand out and you go.
Then you make eye contact.
Yes, that's right. There are preliminary cues to cues. It also does things like cut notes off. And all that can happen without changing what's going on here.
And you can keep
also
doing
gives
this.
Dynamics. It tells the orchestra to get louder. Tells the orchestra to get soft. Yes, here's actually a great test. You start that 4 pattern again. In, out, up, down, in, out, up. Now take this hand. Now really slowly and evenly over 8 counts. That's 2 full bars. So let's go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Down 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now you try it. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Whoa!
3, 4, 5. See,
honestly,
this is like butter.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah,
Bravo.
And at different speeds. It's up.
Bravo.
I've spent the last 30 years of my life doing. So.
Bravo. Wonderful. That's really actually very interesting, and I appreciate you spending some time with us, and I think our audience will really enjoy it. We wish you don't say good luck, right? You say break a leg. Break a leg.
That sort of thing.
Well,
That's the cleanest thing you can say.
And seriously, well, I know they used to, in French, my family was European.
Yes.
So I used to say mère.
Yes, 3 fois mère.
3 fois mère. Is it 3 fois? Is that what it is?
Because it couldn't just be one time. It's a pleasure. We'll
Very pleasure. Now, may I ask you one more question?
Yes,
After you're done on the 4th, do you actually do a barbecue or do any of the normal July 4th things that we do?
Well, it's a little late by the time we get back on the 4th of July. We've traditionally had a party which after we wrapped the television crew and that sort of thing. And but what I'm going to do in this case is I have a lot of my family in, including my brother and his son, and we're we're going to have a family barbecue on the 5th because we figure, well, nobody else will be having one.
That's great, great. I wish you the best of summers.
Thank you
We
very
appreciate the time you spent with us. Thanks so much. So wasn't that fun? And frankly, Symphony Outbound, that means there's a whole lot more stuff going on over the summer. There's Tanglewood. Be sure to watch the Pops on television. I'm pretty sure they're nationally televised on July 4th. He's a delightful man. It's a delightful experience. Welcome to summer. Have a great summer, everybody.